Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Kent Justice, your host for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. So this year marks a 20th anniversary that one of the nation's largest philanthropic investment programs has worked on in Jacksonville. It's called Neighborhood Builders. It's spearheaded by Bank of America. It's a program that selects 2 local nonprofits each year to receive a $200,000 grant, and that includes leadership training for each organization's executive director. So we're going to talk about that and the impact of it. Joining me today, Sheila Cribb, who is market executive from Bank of America, Jacksonville. I love this, Jacksonville native. Also, Chantel Miles is Executive Director for Pace Center for Girls in Jax, and Lucas Sailheimer, who's the Executive Director for Mission House in the Beaches community. So thank you very much. Pace and Mission House, recipients of this grant. Sheila, why don't you start? What is this program and why was this important for Bank of America?
So the beautiful thing about our Neighborhood Builders program is the $200,000 grant that you mentioned is unrestricted funding. So we invest that in a nonprofit partner in our community to really provide a catalytic transformation for that organization. So the leadership development piece is really important because it's for not only the executive director, it's also for an emerging leader that they identify within their organization. And when we talk to these nonprofits after they go through the program for 2 years, the thing that lasts with them is that development training, that investment in leadership that helps their organization grow and be even more impactful in our community.
Where does that training come from? Is it the same training that someone would get ascending the executive levels of B of A? Or is it specific to, hey, we know these are folks working in nonprofits? What's that like?
It's tailored to that nonprofit. It's in person. So we fly our partners out to a location in Texas and for one of the sessions, and then up to Charlotte, North Carolina to our headquarters for the second session. They meet with other nonprofit leaders and they really develop this really strong alumni network post-program. So not only do they develop and grow as leaders, they have resources available to them once the program's finished.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of go around the table here. And so we'll start with Chantel. Tell us about Pace Center for Girls. And this is a great connection. We just talked about 20th year, an anniversary for B of A and this Neighborhoods program, but it's even longer for Pace.
Yes, so Pace has been around for nearly 40 years. We serve what society calls at-risk girls, but at Pace we call them at promise. So we call them at promise because we recognize that they have the promise and the potential to reach higher heights and that they don't have to be victims of their environment. So girls come to us for a regular school day. We serve middle and high school age girls. They come to us for all of their core classes. But what makes us so special is in addition to providing academic services, we have counselors and therapists on site to also work with them. So the counselors and therapists work with them to mitigate those risk factors that introduce them to PACE in the first place. So we will be celebrating 40 years of providing services to girls in the Jacksonville community, but PACE Inc. provides the same services to girls in 21 centers throughout the state of Florida.
All right, so before we move on, what's the impact that makes on those at-promise young ladies?
Oh, goodness. It's boundless, right? And the impact just depends on the girl and her situation. Last year, we had 22 graduates, so 22 girls graduated high school in our program. This year, we have 19 to 20 girls who will be graduating. But aside from the academic achievements that they've made, they get to go back into the community and give back. They get to go back into their homes and their families, and the lessons and the strategies that we've taught them in PACE, they get to transfer that and be better citizens than we found them.
Chantel, thank you. So Lucas, tell us a little bit about Mission House, and this is out in the Beaches community there.
Yeah, so Mission House was founded in 1997, so we've been around a little while too. So we're the only day facility for the homeless population east of the Intercoastal. So we have a large service area, starts at Mayport, goes all the way down and includes all the way down through Ponte Vedra. So that's kind of our primary service area for the homeless. We also have a free and charitable clinic that is open to anyone who's a resident of Duval County who does not have insurance and is within 200% of the federal poverty level. So,
and you're more recent in the area. Tell us about your experience, and maybe it's a couple of years now. Is it less than that?
less than that, 18 months.
Yeah.
So I'm in my 18 months here in Jacksonville. So first off, we love the area, we love the community. So before this, I was based in Illinois. I used to run an after-school program at about 22 different schools across Vermilion County and Danville, Illinois. So this is my 11th year as a nonprofit executive director. So I've been doing this a while. Was really looking for one to relocate somewhere where there wasn't any snow.
Yeah, you found it.
Found it. And then also, I wanted to get back to where I started, which was in the homeless services sector. So, actually started my career at AmeriCorps down in Key West, which has there's a sizable homeless population there as well. Before I moved back to Illinois, so with that. The opening came from Mission House, and I have family in this area, so it was a perfect fit.
Yeah. So thank you both for sharing a little bit about that. So Sheila, as we're looking at neighborhood builders, tell us more about how in this year, these two organizations were chosen, why that's a good investment from Bank of America's side of things, and what you hope the impact is, I guess.
Yeah, so we're super excited to be working with PACE and Mission House. Two very different focuses, but that line up with our philanthropic strategy around investing in our youth and affordable housing, getting people into homes, sustainable, and building that base layer of our community. We're excited to see what PACE does. They actually have one in other locations with the bank, and their work is exponential. It has allowed them to add services to their program. They mentioned Georgia and South Carolina, and serve an additional 1,000 girls per year that weren't being served through the program. Okay. So the leadership training will allow them to grow that program, deliver more impact in our communities, and just make Jacksonville an even better place to live. We think often, you heard Lucas say his services stretched down to Ponte Vedra. We don't think about Jax Beach and Ponte Vedra having a homeless issue, and they are a smaller organization, but we're really hoping that with the partnership with Bank of America, that's gonna help them deliver more services, get more recognition. That translates to more volunteer partners, more companies willing to go out and to serve and to help, so that we all can work together to make Jacksonville great.
Yeah, and Lucas, lean in on that a little bit more about what Mission House does. So I heard you talking a little bit about it, but it's providing food, is there clothing, is there shelter, or what is involved in that? Are you helping people who are experiencing homelessness get into a place where maybe they don't anymore?
Sure. So we're really the front line out there at the beaches. So when you come to Mission House, what really sets us apart is that you have to be part of our program. So to be part of our program, you have to enroll and you have to meet with our case manager, and you have to make sure that you're setting goals. So what we found is that if we are working with our clients to set those goals, that they're going to have a much higher success rate and achieve success, whatever that looks like for them in the moment. So we have some folks who have been on the street a long time. We have some folks who come in and they've been on the street, less than a month. So really working with them to see where they're at and moving our resources to get them to the place that they need to be, both immediately and long term. So yes, we offer 2 meals a day, 5 days a week, and then we do 1 meal a day on the weekends. And then all of our clients meet with our case managers. They have access to showers, clean clothes, all the hygiene facilities and things like that. So we're open 7 days a week except for major holidays. So, right. So really that front line to come in, and then if we can provide the service, we'll absolutely do it. We place about 10 to 15 people a month in jobs. Currently, we want to expand that program with this funding. Also, we need some physical renovations in the building that this funding will be crucial with helping out to expand our footprint a little bit as well.
Yeah, Chantel and Lucas, I guess I want to hear from each of you as leaders of these organizations. What does $200,000 do when it comes from a grant like this? Because you're just talking about some of the things it could go to. What are the plans, and how does that make a difference for each of you?
Yeah, so I think this is a unicorn. It's very rare does a company invest in a nonprofit, and I say with no strings attached, but with no strings attached, right? Because it is unrestricted funds. They trust us to use the dollars where we see that they can best be used. For me, it's definitely expanding our REACH program, the program that Sheila alluded to. So I think it was in '85, our center in Broward County received the Neighborhood Builders Grant, and we have our brick and mortar program, which is the one that I talk about when girls come to us for school and also counseling. But we have another arm of the program called REACH, which reaches out to girls in our community that needs counseling and therapeutic services. They don't necessarily need PACE for academics, so they don't need to come to us for school, but they still need counseling. So through the Neighborhood Builders Grant, our Broward Center was able to start that REACH program, and now we have it in 17 centers in the state of Florida, South Carolina, and in Georgia. So that's the lasting impact that we can have. So with the Jacksonville Center, we have a REACH program. We have therapists that provide services to girls in neighborhood schools, but we also need a therapist in-house that provides additional resources to our girls, so we can do that. I'm excited that we also have a project that will be starting in January where we'll have a physical component for our girls. So they come to us, we focus on the mind, we focus on the academics. Now I want to focus on the body, get their bodies moving. So we will have a recreational field that the girls can take advantage of: basketball, pickleball, volleyball. People don't realize how important it is for the girls to be physical and active, and how that helps with their mental health. So we'll be able to use the Neighborhood Builders Fund for that. And again, we talked about the emerging leaders. Funny story about, I don't know how much time we have. So
Enough for whatever story you're going to tell. We got plenty of time for that.
Pace Jacksonville's emerging leader is Tammy Garrett. She came to me almost 2 years ago, and she's like, Chantel, I've been at Pace for 10 years. As it relates to nonprofit work, PACE is all I know. I really want to branch out and work with another nonprofit through being on their board. I've identified this amazing nonprofit that gives back in Mission House. And so I was like, absolutely, go for it. And again, trying to build her capacity as a leader and knowing more about nonprofit work. So she joined Mission House's board, and so she serves on the board at Mission House. A component of the PACE program is that when our girls reach a certain level on our growth and change system, they have to have a give back project, a community service project. So this year, one of the girls' community service project was to provide meals for the population at Mission House. So she started a project where she had people donate food. The girls and the staff created sandwiches and lunch bags for people at Mission House. So not knowing just all of the arms and all of the connections that we have. And again, all of this type of stuff is made possible by community partners. So we have an emerging leader in Jacksonville who also will give back to Mission House.
Yeah, how's that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I remember, so before the announcement, I had to tell my board, I said, we have this event coming up. I'd like you all to be there. And then I remember Tammy responded. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm already going to be there. And I'm like, you're kidding. So,
Wow.
Just completely randomly, it's so great to have two amazing organizations that, that do collaborate and actively work together to both, be selected for something that's so fantastic.
Sheila, what's your reaction? You probably have heard these stories already, but what's the reaction from you and the company, obviously, that is investing in these organizations when you hear stories like that?
Well, I love that it was connected. We went out, we had to keep the announcement a surprise, but we also had to let them know they had won so they could be invited to the event. And we went out to Mission House. They didn't know we were coming. We just showed up and hoped that they were there, and they were. And they weren't very excited. And I just didn't understand why Fred and Lucas weren't jumping up and down. And I realized later it's because it hadn't hit them yet. It took it a few days to sink in, and then we saw a lot of excitement from them. And then we drove straight from Mission House over to PACE, not knowing Tammy was on the board of Mission House and that she was the identified emerging leader for PACE. And Tammy, you were out. Yeah. Tammy and Christy were jumping up and down and screaming like a bunch of high school girls. Okay. And I said, that's the reaction we wanted from Lucas. So we did get it. We did get it the next day. We have some photographic evidence, but it was great. And then when we learned Tammy as emerging leader, she was so excited to be selected to be in that program. and that she serves on the board of Mission House, and that they had indeed won as well. So they're going to be doing all this training together, getting to spend all this time together. It was really fun to see that from these two teams. It was great.
Well, I'll tell you, I've had an opportunity to serve on board of directors for some of our nonprofits in town, and it really does. It makes a difference to have corporate partnerships, doesn't it? Lucas, maybe you can talk about that. We have such a philanthropic, such a giving community here in Northeast Florida, but it takes that extra bit of help from our corporate partners, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, if you think about it, we're small. So Mission House is grassroots. Like for us, this is almost a fifth of our budget for each year. So, I mean, it's huge for us. But then you think, like, when's the last time you got a $200,000 individual donation? It can happen, but is it, it's rare. So having something that is so supportive and is so, open for us to use to best help Mission House is huge. And then it goes beyond that. We have Bank of America volunteers coming out. We have, because we always have volunteer opportunities. So building those connections, building those relationships, it's really key to keeping the place going and growing our footprint.
Yeah. Let's wrap up here. If I could just hear from each of you, what's the impact on the broader community? And our podcast is about economic growth and development, but what is the impact on our community? How does that help us when we see successes in the nonprofit world, like successes with PACE and with Mission House?
Yeah. I will say the success for me is that there are a lot of needs in Jacksonville, and there are a lot of nonprofits out there doing work. There are a lot of nonprofits. We fund a fair number of them, but the collaboration between the nonprofits, if somebody comes into Lucas or comes into Chantel and they have a need they can address, they have another need, they know where to work them. Then our nonprofit community works together very well. And I think when you take the nonprofits, the corporate partner sponsorship, and the businesses, that's how we get stuff done, is by working together.
Okay. Chantel?
So for me, because we serve girls, we know that when we invest in our girls, we invest in the community. We're investing in our future mothers and the future leaders. Having girls get to a point where they can be self-sustainable is key for PACE. So as I said before, when we invest in them, we are making a broader impact on Jacksonville, and investing in our leadership also. Having succession planning is that's golden. So to know that Bank of America is not only looking out for our girls, but also looking to grow the capacity of our leadership is key. As a leader, as an executive director, I tell my team all the time, my job is to pour into them so that they can pour into girls. So to have a community partner that is pouring into me, as well as an emerging leader, like the impact is great and far-reaching, and it could reach outside of Jacksonville because, again, PACE is all throughout the state of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. The impact that they're making with me, I can share it broadly throughout PACE. So, yeah.
Thank you. That's exciting. Lucas, just by virtue of the roundness of the table,
yes,
you get the last word here. What's the impact that's made in our community because of this?
Sure. So when people come to Mission House, what our homeless services side is actually called our crisis care department, because most of the people who come to us, they either live in constant crisis or they found themselves in some sort of crisis that has gotten them into a situation that most of us would find unimaginable to truly be there. So, when we invest in the people who, we help the people with very basic necessities, that's number one. Driver's license, ID, using our address so they can find a job. Then when we take them to the next step and we say, okay, you're ready for a job. Okay, that's always a huge step. Investing in them, as people, and making sure, number one, that we kind of say around Mission House that while we sometimes find people in undignified situations, everyone still has dignity. So trying to remind people of that who maybe have not felt that way in a very long time because of their situation that is sometimes within their control, but very oftentimes is not within their control.
Yeah.
So, so bringing that dignity back and helping people to get from what is usually the lowest point in their life back to self-sufficiency and getting back into the job market, getting to housing, all things that we're able to do, if not at Mission House, with some of our great community partners that we have.
It's interesting hearing both of you talk about your organizations. And this probably aligns with some of the leadership training as well, but you both talked about we're to set some goals, and that's powered by hope. And what I hear is there's hope in what each of you and your organizations and your team does for people in our community. This is pretty good stuff, isn't it?
It's great stuff.
I
Can't wait to see what comes out
yes,
of it. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that as well. So we're just getting started in 2025 and a new year, and our best, and we'll check back with you to see how things are going. So thanks for joining us today. Our guest, Sheila Cribb, Market Executive from Bank of America, Jacksonville. Chantel Miles, the Executive Director for Pace Center for Girls. And Lucas Salmheimer, the Executive Director for Mission House in the Beaches community. Thank you so much for just spending the time and telling people about what you're doing. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you. We are constantly working to bring you more interviews like this, focused on economic growth that is in our region, and you're going to find more episodes right now, including on News4JAX Plus. Thanks for joining us on This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition.